All right, let's begin. So we are going to jump into a very important, and I think it's like the subject essentially. God is found within the details. And the reason why we're delving into this topic is because it's the truth, and it's like God is found within the details, right? And God is within the stock market, right? We've got an investor here. We've got, accountants or whatever, and so the reason why we are delving into this is this week's, it says every single week we live with the energy of the week. We live with the Parsha of the week, the specific Torah portion of the week. And this week's Torah portion is Mishpatim, which literally means laws. It means laws. And very interestingly, the Parsha starts off with an additional vowel to it. So it doesn't just say mishpatim, for example, the laws, right? But it says ve'ele hamishpatim, and these are the laws. Ve'ele hamishpatim, where grammatically it shouldn't say that, like it's its own unit. So just say Eila Mishpatim or whatever, or just jumping into a new subject. So why does it say Ve'ele HaMishpatim, and these are the laws? So our commentators explain to us that enjoy. You're into the red today.
Yeah.
So our commentators explain to us that this parsha comes after last week's parsha. Well, that commentators don't have to say that, but we'll soon get into what they actually say. But it rides, or it comes as it's juxtaposed to last week's parsha, which is the parsha of the giving of the Torah, which is the most it's the most intense experience. It's the most like surround sound experience, right? Where the people saw the sounds, they heard the sights, they had an outer body experience. They had like the experience of, basically of all lifetimes, because it says that all the souls of Israel were there during that time by the giving of the Torah, and that impression is forever engraved within the soul of every single one of us. That experience, that which is an outer body experience, which is an eternal experience, is something that is we experience that, right? And we have that transcendental experience of connecting to the infinite, basically. And so that's last week's parsha. And this week's parsha, we go into laws. We go into Eile HaMishpatim. We go into details. We go into, well, what happens if your ox rams your neighbor's ox, and it happens twice? Well, then then the law is this and that. And if it happens a third time, and basically all of, or a lot of the Talmudic law that we know about is based on this week's parsha, what we call the three bavas, right? The three bavot, which is bava kama, bava mitzia, bava batra, which is the core of civil law, is based on this week's Torah portion. So in a very short way, in a very condensed way, in the Parsha, it's explained in great detail, and in Talmudic law, right, just quantified and asked and disputed on. And this is what's discussed and studied in yeshiva, right, in Talmudic academies, have been studied for thousands of years. So we go into the minutia of life right after the experience, the greatest experience ever, the most spiritual, transcendental experience, last week's parsha. And then this week's parsha, we go into the the minutia. Well, what happens if this goes on? What happens if that happens? What happens if this is the situation here? But it all changes if that, if that happens. And we get into the detail. We get into the small details of life. We get into the minutia. And in many ways, it's just not spiritual. It doesn't feel spiritual. Right after experiencing spirituality, the greatest experience ever, we're now integrating, right? We're now going into integration mode into all these laws, all these details. So how does it work? So that's what the commentaries say. Ve'ela Mishpatim. It starts off with the letter Vav to teach us that Maharishonim Sinai, just like the first ones are from Sinai, so too Ha'achonim, so too these are from Sinai as well. Because a person may think that the spiritual, the transcendental experience, that's where it's all at. It's actually within the details. Just like the first ones are from Sinai, these are from Sinai as well. It may not seem spiritual to you, but it is, because spirituality is not what you could understand in your brain, in your mind. Spirituality or godliness transcends the mind and is found within the detail. Right? So there's this story. There's this guy that leaves home in the 60s and he goes to like Nepal, and he goes up on a mountain and he meditates for a whole year, and he's got his ticket that he has to go home with. And so finally he gets off the mountain and he waits to buy a train in Nepal to go to wherever the airport was. And he's waiting, just like one clerk there, like selling hand printed, just tickets to get on the train. So finally it's his turn, and the lady goes, it's over. The day's done for her. And he's going to miss his train. He's going to miss his flight. And all of a sudden he starts beeping, right? Blurping, beep, beep, saying all these 4-letter words, which he thought he was done with. He was through with. He's been refined. He's been spiritually refined. And all of a sudden he's like, all this anger and all this it's just all coming out of him. And he's like, what have I just done? Right? And basically he realizes, I have to go back up on the mountain. So in many ways, that's the story of our lives. The story of our lives is we are on the mountain and we get off of the mountain, but we have to get back on the mountain so that we can get back off the mountain. And that we can deal with the day-to-day, that we can appreciate the godliness which is found within every single moment. And every single experience is an opportunity to connect with the infinite, right? That's found within that moment. So how do we do that? So any questions, comments? Okay. So how do we do that? How's the godliness found within the detail? So I'll just say that there's another Parsha that we're going to read later on in Deuteronomy, which is called Parshat Behar, which talks about all the details of the agricultural law. Basically, it talks about the laws of Shemitah, the laws, and it says Behar Sinai. These are the laws that are given Behar Sinai. So the commentators ask, why does it say over there, these are the laws that are given on Mount Sinai? All of the laws were given on Mount Sinai. So the answer, which is given similar to what we're learning here today, is that all of the laws were given on Har Sinai to teach us that the details of the agricultural experience, all of those details are part of that collective experience, that it's not just a superficial, spiritual, transcendental experience. It's about the farmers rolling up their sleeves, going into the land, dealing with the process, right? And all the laws that have to do with the land. And all of that was taught on Mount Sinai. All of that was taught on Mount Sinai. The details of life are sacred, right? God is found within the detail. So the name of Hashem, the name of God, one of the names of God, but we could say the main name of God is Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Tetragrammaton. In fact, has the letters in there, which is Hoveh. Hoveh means the present. And the Yud, the Alter Rebbe tells us in Tanya, that the letter Yud is that what makes the present present. So the Hoveh, that God, Yud Ke Vav Ke, when we talk about God, God isn't what we can understand in our minds, right? God is way above our minds, way above anything that we could conceive as being the Him, right? The reality of Him, or the whole, right? God, way above that. It's the present moment which is being actualized, which is being recreated at this very moment, that every single second the world is recreated, and that the moment itself is an expression of God's infinity. It's just, we call it nature, but in truth it's completely above nature. It's God, it's the transcendent, but it's the transcendent that is so transcendent that it's within the detail. So these laws are being given to people who never worked the land. That's right. Yes. So let's jump into this concept in more in depth. So the question which is asked, why does it say Ele HaMishpatim? These are the laws. So let me just explain this question. These are mishpatim. So we have three types or paradigms of mitzvot. One of them is mishpatim. Mishpatim are laws, and literally they are laws which we can understand with our physical brain, that it makes sense, like not to injure someone, not to steal, to be moral, to honor your parents. Right? All of these laws are things which we could understand in our brains. And that's Ela Mishpatim. Mishpatim are laws, are the divine will, which we can understand with our mind. I mean, it's the basis of society, right? That if society is not based on these codes of morality, like it says in Pirkei Avot, Ishet re'eu chaim balau, like people would swallow each other up if we don't hold by laws. So there are laws which we understand with our brains, with our minds. That's called mishpatim. The second paradigm is called eduyot, like it says that about Passover or about the Shabbat is also called edut. And edut literally means a witness, to witness. Edut, right? And that type of a mitzvah has to do with witnessing, meaning like that when one witnesses an experience, they are transformed by witnessing it. It's like you can't help by being transformed by it. And the Talmud says that a witness can never become a judge. So if someone is a judge, for example, and they witness something, they're disqualified. That's it. Ein ed nasa dayan, because you saw it, you believe it. Once you saw something, the power of our vision, the power of our sight, power of our eyes is just able to transform us. So what are the mitzvot on that level? That the mitzvot are called witnessing, right? For example, let me just give you a beautiful example on how the mitzvot are called witnessing. So So the Shema, for example, in the Torah, is they have a large letter Ayin at the end of the Shema. The Shin Mem Ayin is a jumbo letter because there are big letters, medium letters, and small letters. So the Ayin is a big letter. And then at the end, Echad is a large Dalid, which spells Eid, which is a witness. Because when we say the Shema, we're witnessing. It is a mitzvah, right? The Shema is a mitzvah. The Shema, is the unification of God's existence. Ein od milvado. We are witnessing Eid. We become a witness. Atem eidai ne'um Hashem. Isaiah says, "You are my witnesses." So a mitzvah is a form of witnessing God in the world. So, for example, Passover is called a type of mitzvah, which is called witnessing, and all the holidays are in that form, in that way. So, when a holiday happens, so we witness something which is out of the ordinary. That's what a holiday is. So, Passover just defied nature. And all the holidays are like that. So we take like a normal mundane day, and then we say, oh, it's above nature. So we witness something, and we celebrate it, right, in Judaism by eating a lot of food, right? And we're like, yeah, we won, and let's celebrate and let's eat a lot of food. But like, really, it's about being present and witnessing the holidays. This is the day that God has done. Let us rejoice in this day. So that's the second form of a mitzvah. The third form of a mitzvah is called a chok. Chok literally means an edict or a decree. You could, well, not a decree, that's a gazere, but a chok is above nature, and it's above our understanding. And for example, the red heifer, paraduma, that even King Solomon said, I don't know the reason for this mitzvah. Amarti echkema, I said that I'm very wise. It's very far away from me. I don't get this mitzvah. And it says that God didn't tell King Solomon, but he told Moshe, right, the reason for it. So we've got mitzvot, which are on the level of chukim. For example, shatnez, which is like the different garments, the different types of mixture of wool and linen. Kosher is called a chok, although the Maimonides, the Rambam, actually attributes it to all types of intellectual reasons, but really it's a chok. So we've got these three levels of the mitzvot: mishpatim, edut, and chukim. Now it's very interesting that the very next parsha after the giving of the Torah, which is like above nature, is Ela Mishpatim. These are the Mishpatim. These are the laws. So we're going right into, from above our understanding, above like the intellect, super transcendental, into laws, Mishpatim, things that we can understand. Ve'ela Mishpatim. And here comes like the depth of the juxtaposition of these two. That the laws, that the things that we think that we understand, the truth is that they are all above our understanding. They're all really on the level of chukim. Even the mitzvot, which make sense to us intellectually, we don't just keep them because they intellectually make sense to us. It's because of the command, the mitzvah, which is given over to us. And there's a huge difference between doing something because it makes sense to us intellectually versus this is the command, or this is the mitzvah which is given from the source, right, from God. And therefore, when we fulfill the mitzvah because it is the will of the Creator, we're not doing it because it makes sense to us intellectually. Because if it makes sense to us intellectually, then first of all, it's okay if it makes sense to us intellectually, but that's not the reason why we fulfill the mitzvot. We fulfill the mitzvot because in truth, it is super rational. It is above rationale. Even things that make sense to us intellectually, they in truth, we fulfill them, we do them because they are above nature, right? They're the will of the creator. So let's try. So how does that work with understanding or being in touch with the detail and seeing the godliness, the innate godliness in the detail? Because it seems like if this is above nature, then how do we even have a relationship with the moment or the opportunity within the moment, right? If it's above nature, or if it's super rational, and basically what it comes down to, that all of life is super rational, is all of life is really doesn't make sense. Really, all of life doesn't make sense. The fact that it does make sense on a certain level is because God wants it to make sense to us in some way. But if we approach the situation as it being, or it's supposed to make sense, and we're supposed to understand it fully with our minds, with our heads, what happens to us, right? The result is almost always we get, welcome. We always get pushed back. We get the awakening, basically, that, you know what, I don't understand, and I cannot understand fully how I should, I basically, whenever we think that we have a grasp on all the details of our life and how things should go and how things are supposed to go, and that's how we find, and that's how we think we find our comfort and our joy and our peace, right? Then very quickly, we realize, no, that's not going to happen. It's like in the situations where we let go of the control or the need to think that we are in control, and we realize that there is a greater force which is in charge of everything, and we are just here, and things are unfolding in our space, right? And a lot of it is we're supposed to approach it and make sense of it and use our minds, use our creativity. It's not a contradiction to it, but when it's the difference of approach, right? So the approach is, do we approach the Mishpatim as saying that they are laws, and therefore I'm going to make sense of it because life is meant to be made sense of, and I'm going to control the outcomes of my life? And that's basically trying to control the details, or saying that the details are within my control, versus it is all above nature. And even the Mishpatim are really chukim, they're really above nature edicts, meaning that every aspect of my life is, in fact, every detail of my life is really above nature, that I'm supposed to, that I come in contact with to try to understand, to try to unfold and bring and connect to, right, within this moment, because that opportunity, or whatever opportunity is going on in life, and whatever moment is unfolding in life, is an opportunity for a transcendent moment. So it's the mark. I think you're every moment is a transcendent moment.
So, Rabbi, what's your saying to us is, okay, are the explanations of the commandments that Moses got from Sinai. So you're giving us oral Torah, is that it? This is the oral, the interpretations, the oral Torah, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, right. So I want to like, I want us to if we can just deepen this idea of the moment, that the moment itself is a godly moment, that the detail, that the mitzvah is an opportunity for a transcendent experience, whether we understand it or don't understand it. But the difference is that if we come from the approach of the non-understanding, meaning in Kabbalah and Chassidus, it's called bitul, nullification, right? Or in other cultures, it's called the ego-less, right? Meaning that when it's coming from the ego, or when it's coming from the yesh, right? It says like the somethingness of ourselves. The approach is, I can now, I'm an actual player in this moment, that I am in control of the possible outcomes, versus when there's the Parshat Yitro first, and then Mishpatim, telling us that the first thing is understanding the nullification, the chukim, that it really is all above nature. But the above nature does not negate the detail. The above nature and detail is all one. Just to us, it seems like there are two realities. What does it mean to us, to our intellectual mind, to our linear mind, to our linear mind, which understands things in this type of a way? But in the true cosmic, right, essence, right, it's all one. The above nature and the nature, the detail and the above detail are completely one. So what's the approach to the detail? The approach to the detail, when the approach to the detail is coming from the place of, this is one detail, and I lived in a detail before, and a detail before, and there's going to be details after that, then that is limiting the depth of the now, because it's saying that that now is contingent on the past or on the future. And therefore, the experience of the now is not as deep, because it's only as deep as
You can't really be there.
you're not there because it's something, exactly. It's just bringing us to something else.
Yeah.
It's like now, it's like you're waiting on you're waiting for a bus. You're like, okay, when's the bus going to come? And you're like,
Really Bellis. That's like really Bellis.
Yeah, it is, because you're like, I'm really meant to be there. So it's like the means are to the end, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the means to the end.
Right,
It's like you're in school, or you are visiting a place, or you're on the way to visit a place. It's not about the whole journey there. It's about getting there. But the truth is that that when there's an expression in Chassidus, it's called a pnimi. Pnimi is someone who is basically mindful. Mindfulness, right? That idea of mindfulness, a pnimi, is someone that is there within the moment, and that every moment is a godly moment. And the moment is not a moment that is just there to get us to another moment. The moment itself is the end in it of itself. Like right now is the whole purpose of.
Thought about that a lot, because like when we're trying to we aren't ever even in the future moment because we're just trying to, like, you never are your future self. You miss the whole thing because like the person you have to become to appreciate that moment only happens by being like where you
by
are.
being now,
Yeah.
by being in the very present moment. So what's the approach? Is the approach, again, the parsha is called Ela Mishpatim, but it doesn't say Ela Mishpatim, Ve'ela Mishpatim, telling us just like the first ones are from Sinai, these are from Sinai as well. Meaning the switch is, it could be Ela Mishpatim. It could be like basically the lesson here, right? That the Torah is telling us by the juxtaposition of these two parshiot, one to the other, is that we could live life as two separate realities. We have the transcendent and we've got the details. And we believe in the transcendent. We believe like almost like everyone knows, like there are those incredible moments of life and beautiful, moments. The first time that this happened, the first time that, they're amazing, they're great. But then like the details of life are like kind of like just monotonous, and it's going into the minutia, and one doesn't feel the inspiration. And like, what is God not found within this moment? Is God not found within this this detail or whatever it is? Like, he is, absolutely is. It's just your approach is what's preventing you from seeing it. And the approach is one little letter, and that is the letter Vav. That's what the Torah starts off. That's what the Parsha starts off. Ve'ele. Vav is a connection. Are we making the connection? The connection is we're seeing the Mishpatim. We're seeing all of the laws, all the details, all the minutiae, it's uninspirational, and I got to pay the bills, and I got to do this, and I got to deal with this, and I got, right? Where can you find the inspiration? These last 2 weeks, to be honest, I've been recovering from the flu. I've never had it for this long, but I had it for like 2 weeks, and it's like I'm a pretty active person, and I found myself in bed for a prolonged amount of times. And so this has really been resonating with me because I'm thinking like, I should be doing stuff. I need to be like, I need to be like, what am I even doing here? And I'm like, relax. You're exactly where you're meant to be. God wants you in this moment, right here and there. So my body was just, I just had to, I just either accept it or be very unhappy, basically, right? Or be more unhappy. I mean, it's uncomfortable to be, ill, but most of what's uncomfortable about being ill is like our perception of it. When you look at it as like, God is actually giving you a kiss, saying like, I want you to relax. I want you to know everything's okay. Yeah. I want you to know, like, you're like, you don't have to rush. You don't have to go anywhere. You're here. I'm with you. Just take it in. Just heal. Take in the healing process. And it's a beautiful like reframing of like how to look at it. So, and in many ways we all go through this in the details of our life, where we're like, well, why I want to be here, I want to do there, I want to do that, and etc. And if you were supposed to be there, then you would be there. But you are here right now in this moment, and the thing that's preventing you from seeing the opportunity is your own mind, and that's the letter Vav, Ve'ela Mishpatim. In other words, the approach, the preliminary approach, is like looking at all things in life, including the Mishpatim, as chukim, as above nature. That it really is all above nature. That the laws of life, the minutiae of life, are really all above nature. And it's getting out of our own mind and allowing ourselves to feel that, and it takes getting out of our own mind. It's basically like, we could say it's the ego, it's the self, the yesh, but in the sense of like bitul, of saying like, this is God's world. I am the visitor. I am here in God's world, and I am meant to, to basically co-create. Yes, but but God is the one that's the creator, and I'm allowing him to lead the show and allowing the moment to present itself with what's needed.
I have a question. So, yeah, that was all great. But like, how does a person know, like, let's say their life is like going through the day-to-day things every single time, and they're just like not satisfied with that specific thing.
Yes.
How do you know when it's like
Awesome. So basically the question is like, how do we know in our day-to-day, how does that come up? Right? That is like the question. And that's basically the approach. So the approach to that is reverse engineering ourselves. And what's the reverse engineering? The engineering of ourselves is basically our mind, and it's to not be present, it's to be in the future or in the past. That's our basic makeup, because our minds are meant to like help us, survive, that nothing's going to happen, and just like, right, the amygdala is right there, just taking good care of us, and it's, so we're wired that way. And so there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way Hashem, God, has made made us, right? But what's the reverse engineering? Reverse engineering is taking the approach of gratitude. Now, what's so powerful about the approach of gratitude? It's reverse engineering our need to want something else or to be somewhere else. Whereas when we are in the state, and this is, by the way, what happened on Mount Sinai, we're called like Yehudim, right? Yehudim comes from the word hoda'ah, which means to give thanks or to acknowledge. Hod.
I heard also to להודות על האמת.
Yeah.
Admit.
To admit,
the truth.
to acknowledge. So the ability to be in a state of gratitude is the ability to stay focused and to stay in the present, and to look at things not as that. Let's just like think about this for a second. What is it about gratitude that allows us to really be in the moment? In life, we think that if I get this thing, then I'm going to be happy, right?
So you're there, not here.
Or how can I be happy because this happened to me?
You're there, not here.
Yeah, and I'm in the past, right? I had this situation when I was a kid. I had, that has not yet happened. This is going on in my life, et cetera, and things are constantly going on in our lives all the time. There's never a perfect, the perfect moment, or there are like amazing times, but that's also delusional, where we're like, oh, it's always going to be this way. But that's also not right, the reality. And so what is it about staying in gratitude, which is reverse engineering ourselves, that allows us to be present, is saying that this moment is a beautiful moment. Like right now is perfect. Right now is amazing. Right now, you may be in bed and thinking like, what is going on? I wish I would. Right now is perfect.
Right. It's like you have anxiety and gratitude at the same time.
Right. You can't have anxiety and gratitude. Right. Exactly. That's the beautiful thing about it. You have.
But also, I feel like gratitude can put you in the past or the future. Like, I'm here and I've been like reflecting on how grateful I am to be here and learn certain things. And I was buying groceries and I was so aloof and in my mind that I forgot half the groceries at the store. Because I'm like so grateful and happy and spiritual to be here and connected with my God that I'm actually like not.
Yeah, that's a spot syndrome. That's a spot syndrome. But don't worry, it's better to do that a little bit more. Don't worry, you're not like, I mean, if you keep on forgetting your groceries at the grocery store, then it'll start being an issue. It happens once, whatever it is, but it's better that, let's put it this way, than to be stressed out of like, someone looking after me and that's going on and maybe that's going. So it's a little like it's good to, it's not, there are worse things.
But you have to be like, I almost think you have to be grateful for buying that cottage cheese in order to not forget.
Yes, exactly. You are buying whatever it is you are buying. You're picking it up. You're holding on to the texture of it. You are placing it in the basket. Like that's a great, the whole experience is a godly experience. So ve'ela mishpatim, and these are the laws. You're seeing God within the detail. Ve'ela mishpatim, that God is not just in the transcendent, but the truth is that within the detail is the transcendent. But you can only get the transcendent if your approach to it is that it's not coming from my mind. It's not coming from mishpatim, right? Ve'ela mishpatim. It's connecting to the level of it's all chukim. It's all miracles. In truth, it's all miracles. Nature is not nature. Nature is miracles. It just looks like it's nature, right? But nature is a miracle. Nature is absolutely a miracle. Like the fact that you take a seed and you put it in the ground and it grows, like, wow, like that's nature. The fact that, that we everything in our bodies is so incredible. Everything that happened, it's all just a miracle. And when the approach is to look at life in that vantage point, in those eyes, ve'ela mishpatim, not just like, oh, it's a miracle, and now I'm going to go back to life, and I'm going to be stuck in the in the rat race of everything. Rather, it really is all above nature, and the details of our lives are just giving us the opportunity to make it a godly moment, to make it a transcendent moment. When in every step that we take.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, I don't know, I've like moved in different places at different points in my life.
Yeah.
And it's not because I wasn't grateful for what I had at the time. It's just like that phase of life is over and now I needed to
Right.
change and like improve on things. And
Yeah.
so like I guess
So that's
like, when you're at like a space when you're like, I don't know what to do next, like I'm not really feeling where I'm at right now. So you can be thankful for it, but you can also
Well, yeah, I mean, you're grateful for it, but like when you are looking, the question was like, you're going from, let's say you have to move on in life. You move on to another location, another career, whatever it is, like, how, you could be grateful, but like, how do you understand like the next phase? And the truth is that God is always sending us messages. Always sending us messages, and it's the messages are there. You're gonna meet the right people. You're going to be taken, and it's like almost like go with the flow of like, this is where you're meant to go. If you're going to resist it, then you're resisting the universe, right? You're resisting Hashem. Like you're resisting. It's a force that's taking you there. And so it's being in the moment is actually is accepting that, okay, I guess I should be doing that. And that's cool. Like your friends are not going to be doing that. Other people are not on your journey. You are on this journey and you're the one that's seeing that. And being responsible means that you are response-able. you have the response, you have the ability to respond to this situation because you saw it. Hey, Michelle.
So this would be, I only thought of the question just because you mentioned the Vav, but I was just thinking the word itself, ve'ela hamishpatim, what is it about all the osios that comprise the word ve'ela? I'm wondering if there's a mafarish, some commentator that explains that actually the word ve'ela encompasses the aleph, the lamed, and the hey also that are the mishpatim. Like,
Yeah,
I guess,
beautiful question.
so like ve'ela.
Right.
Hamishpatim.
Beautiful question. So
What's in it?
So it says in Isaiah, raise up your eyes, su marom einechem, u're'u mi bara ele. Su marom einechem, lift up your eyes, u're'u, and see mi bara ele. So actually, that's the acronym. Su marom einechem is the acronym for the Shema, Shin Mem Ayin, right? Which we said before, the Shema is the letters at the beginning is Ayin, and Dalid is aid, is a witness. So in Isaiah it says, Se'u marom einechem, lift up your eyes, U're'u mi bara ele, see who created ele. These, ele is all of this. But it says in the Zohar that ele is the primary letters for Elohim, right? The name of God, which is within nature. So ele is the primary, like Eloha, like we say in Hebrew, is a God. Actually, Aleph Lamed Hey is the letters, the primary letters for God, which is within nature, right? So lift up your eyes and see Mi bara ele, who created ele. Ele is Elohim, is basically nature. See that nature is really above nature. Like Su'umarom enechem, Uri mi bara ele, ele is Elohim. Mi bara Elohim is like God is within nature. Hateva, Elohim is the letters Hateva. God is within nature. Is the gematria of Hateva of 86. So Elohim, right? There's a beautiful story of a chassid of the Rebbe Maharash, that the Rebbe Maharash told him when he was a businessman, wherever you're traveling, try to get a window seat. And try to get or you're staying in a hotel, make sure that you have like a nice bright, window. And the reason for that is he told him, he's like, you're constantly on the go, you're doing business, you're not in a spiritual setting. But when you could look above, when you could look out of the window, you could lift up your eyes, right? There's a Torah from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. It says like, looking up at the sky is such an important thing, because when you look up at the sky, you're seeing the transcendent. You're seeing the godliness, and there's a saying. This is an ayom yom. The difference between the human and the animal is that the reason why a human is created erect, right, stands, is because we could look up. We could look up at the heavens, whereas the animal looks down at the earth. So they're looking down at the detail, but they're not realizing that the details themselves are also transcendent. Whereas when we're able to look up at the sky, we're able to look up, right? Like the Rebbe Maharash told this chassid, he's like, sit by a window seat. You're don't worry, but you're gonna, whatever it is that you're struggling with, you're gonna be going through. You could always look up at the sky. Keep things, lift up your eyes and see who created all of ele, all the details, all the Elohim, all of the details, all the minutiae, all the sometimes challenges, right? Everything in our life, it's him. It's all him, and we have to add the letter Vav to it, right? We have to make the connection, right? That connection only we can make, and that's the letter Vav. Ve'ela mishpatim, like making the connection between Yitro, Parshat Yitro, the transcendent, and the detail is that's our mission in this world, to make to take that letter Vav, basically, to make that letter Vav and just make the association from the mind to the heart, which is basically the aspect of the letter Vav, because the mind and the heart are potentially completely opposite of each other. And there's that thick veil and the thick wall between the mind, what the mind knows, what the heart feels. They're two polar opposites, but the letter Vav connects the two. And so that's our job, and that's our mission basically in the world, to make to take that letter Vav into our day-to-day, moment-to-moment situations, and ask ourselves the question, right? Mi bara ela, who created all of this? Like who, and to be present and to be grateful within the situation that we're in, and to be able to see the opportunity, not so much for, oh, so this is going to lead to this, and that's going to practically happen, and it's just actually being is a tremendous, that's where it's all at. And everything else stems from that. Like when we are present, when we are there in the moments with our children, with our spouses, with our, co-workers, with ourselves, first and foremost, then godly things happen, like amazing things happen. And it's not like, don't worry that, well, this isn't happening yet in my life. It just don't, it's okay. Because I need to do things, and I need to have these tangible actions that are there. They do happen, and we definitely have to take action, right? Going back to your question, that we get led and we take action to that, right? And that's another aspect of the letter Vav, that we take action on what's next in front of us. But it's not in contradiction to who we are essentially, right? Who we're meant to be essentially. And that's the presence that we need to be. So we're going to pause here for today. So food for thought. And I want to bless you all, us all, for an amazing Shabbat, Parshat Mishpatim, which actually the Zohar says it's the Shabbat of it. Parshat Mishpatim has to do with like the reincarnations, which like we spoke about in previous years. But like, what reincarnations? Was it talking about all these things? Yes, like basically the above nature things that we don't understand that are going on in our life are happening, and that we don't need to know. And just the process of actually be joyously within the moment and being grateful within the moment is such a fulfilling place to be in the state of gratitude. So I want to bless us all, that we should all like really connect to that place of gratitude within us, and be able to really find that place of joy within every single moment that we're blessed to be living in this world, in this life, in this time. Yes, in this lifetime, in the previous, in all that. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Many blessings. Beautiful.
Thank you,
Shabbat.
Rabbi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Stay in good health.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Blessings.